It's time for Common Man. Common Man, charms the housewives like no one can. What do you shoot? Where we play? Non-stop nonsense on deck today. Tune in. It's time for Common Man.
Why should anybody aspire to be a common man, an average man? Do you realize what it means to be average? That means you're the best of the lousiest, and the lousiest of the best. Now, if we demand more and more for producing less and less, while the have-not nations encourage and inspire and indeed require hard work and maximum effort, if we deify the common men while they encourage and reward the uncommon ones, well, the end result of such a lopsided race as that is too obvious to require elaboration.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
I'm pulling my tickets.
Idiot. Moron. Imbecile. What a Morris.
The build-up is good, isn't it? Actually, the build-up in the entire Open is really much better than the show. It's going to take a nosedive right about now. Oh, crank it. Crank it, Sammy. Crank it. Thank you. Greetings, good afternoon, and ack-ack-a-dack, and dack-dack-ack to you and yours. I'm the common man, Dan Cole. I'm a radio dinosaur, and this is my La Brea Tar Pit. Someday archaeologists and paleontologists will be sifting through the rubble that will be 1600 Utica Avenue South. They'll stumble across my skeletal remains and my cold, dead, not rigor mortis, but fossilized lips attached to this microphone. And it's not a Neumann BCM 104 anymore. It's some kind of an Electrolux 80, I don't remember the number now, but it's an Electrolux. It's okay. It works. I mean, it's not a bad microphone, but it's not a great microphone. Here until 3. I would suppose regular listeners of the program probably realize right away that Tenneby is not here today. We had no montage for after the Vikings victory, though Sam Bird in today for the Tenneby, who I think is at home with a sick child. And you asked if I needed any audio or anything, and I just said, let's wing it. Of course, then you texted back, why did I know that was the response? And I told you, we just do freeform radio. The danger, as I told you in the text, of doing freeform radio is it can turn into a free fall. It's like walking a tightrope. It's like I'm the Carl Willend of radio. You're on that tightrope and you're walking and it's all good. Then all of a sudden, gust of wind blows and boom, Papa, get down, and you just plummet to your death. So we could die a very slow death today, a very quick and painless one. We'll just see how it works. But we are here until 3 o'clock. Head coach of the soon-to-be big game world champion Minnesota Vikings. We weren't sure, with a late night game and a flight back from Dallas, when he would do his day after the game news conference. But he's doing it regularly scheduled 12:30. He's excited. I'm sure he's excited about what happened last night in the Big D. Vikings win there. I think it's their second win in a row. They improved to 5-8. Of course, leading into yesterday's game, they knew before they even had the opening pooch. It's not a boom anymore, by the way, because they just pooched the ball and tried to keep it in play. But the Vikings had been eliminated from postseason play, and they would have needed several things to go their way. Like they'd have to win every game, and every other team in the league would have to lose every game, which is impossible because there's 16 games a week, and that means there's 16 winners. And so the other 15 teams, the other 31 teams weren't all going to lose. So the Vikings have been eliminated. But we'll talk about that. There is plenty to get to today. There will be no Wheel of Topic because I know exactly what order of actually, if you're looking for excitement level and maybe order of importance, you'd probably start with the Minnesota Wild. They had the blockbuster trade while we were away. And I was on call. I had told Chad Abbott that, no, I'm being serious. I said, I told him, if over the weekend, the Wild trade for Connor McDavid, who's overrated, or Leon Draisaitl, that I would be on call and I would come in and take phone calls and do sort of like a Wild fan line. Wow. That's the kind of guy I am, even on my day off. But they didn't trade for Connor McDavid or Leon Draisaitl. They traded for... I can't remember his name.
I can't. I'm not much of a Wild guy. But the funny thing is, Brett Blakemore was just hyping it up earlier, and it was in 1 year now.
His name is Quinn.
Yeah.
Something Quinn Rogers Quinn. He's apparently he might be the best defensive hockey player of all time. The legend's already growing. He went from being one of the top 3 defensive players of all time, Norris Trophy winner. Now that he's with us and we won yesterday and he scored a goal, now we're beginning to trumpet him as the greatest defenseman in the history of the National Hockey League. What's his name?
Quinn
again?
Hughes, by the way.
Quinn Hughes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. When you play Quinn Hughes, the team refuses to lose. We refuse to lose is what they do. So we'll get to that before the program is over. Also, Minnesota Timberwolves win another basketball game. And, of course, there is the Vikings. No Mark Rosen today. He'll join us tomorrow at 2 o'clock. We start tomorrow at 1 o'clock. It will be time for the Niko Medved show at 12 o'clock, the head coach of the men's Minnesota Golden Gopher men's basketball team. I'm trying to get, I should have done this before I walked in, but I was getting excited. I've figured out I have email on my phone now, so I can do hip cricket, and I can get my my text messages up, because I'm sure a lot of people are going to weigh in on what's happened over the weekend.
It's funny you say that. I got a new phone last week, and I got locked out of everything. It took like 3 different IT people to help me get back into my account.
Really?
Yeah. So I didn't have access to the talkbacks, to my email. It was a mess last week.
No.
So I hear you.
FAQE. There we go. Let's just see if this works. Oh, it's uppercase. Let's see if it works. Bingo. We're back in business. So nice to have our Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line. First question for you, Sam. Again, I know, how many times have you filled in for 10 to be on the program, do you think?
This is my second time.
Second time only?
Yes.
So I always like to, we have unique listeners of the Common Man program. Most of them don't listen to the other shows. We have very unique listeners. And so if you've appeared on other shows before, they might not know who you are because they don't listen to the other shows. They're strictly Common Man listeners. So we'd like to familiarize you with them. You went to Roosevelt and
Washburn.
I beg your pardon?
I went to Washburn High School.
You went to Roosevelt, I thought. Is that sacrilegious for me to say that? You seemed like you were you jumped quick on that. It was man. Let me guess. You're a Washburn guy. Is it called hated Roseville then? Do you hate Roosevelt?
No, there's no hate there.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up near Roosevelt.
Okay.
But yeah, I was a Washburn guy.
Okay. Another question for you.
Yes, sir.
You still have that plastic Chad stuck in your throat?
I do not.
Well, it came out.
Yeah. No, we're good. I'm feeling good. So the last time I've worked with you, Common, I don't remember the date, but I do remember the day, and it was the day after the Wild lost in the playoffs. And I'm sure Abbott thought to himself, Tenebee's not here. You know who's a great replacement? This guy who knows almost nothing about hockey. As he just walks into the studio.
He had no idea what the name of the hockey players we traded for. I tested him.
Yep.
Disappointing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's only the biggest trade in the history of the franchise.
Yeah, I was
nice
testing
to see you too.
Yeah.
And the press conference is at 2:00, not 12:30.
Why you said 12:30?
That's what it was going to be, but we got back really late. Not everybody's built like me, so they needed to sleep in a
It was
little
interesting, and I was praising the coach, saying he was so excited to talk about the victory, he was going to stick to his regularly scheduled time at 12:30. But you're saying it's 2:00.
We got back a little later than we wanted, so 2:00. So you're going to have to find a different time to eat your lunch, and then when you guys go to break, I'll explain to you Quinn Hughes and why this is the biggest trade in franchise history.
I know all about it. He's a rental. We got him for a year, and then he's going to go play with his brothers in New Jersey.
He'll like it here.
Of course he will. Who doesn't like it here?
Trust you didn't take it from the people that have played the game.
Yeah, I have. I've played hockey. Boot hockey. I played it. So we'll get to all that. Well, now we don't have to take the early break at the bottom of the hour, Sam. So we'll just move along. So let's do this. Let's take our break. Can you play some music right now? Any kind of bumper music?
Yeah, I'll have to.
Because you got to bump me out at 12:27, and just before the top of the hour, I'll just keep talking. I won't stop. That's your job. The one and only job for you today is to chime in when needed and to make sure we stay on time.
Got it.
And the only way we stay on time is when you play bumper music. So hit a little piece right now. We break it to 12 or 13.
I think we got it here. No, maybe we don't. Let's see. Oh, there we go. Okay.
There we go. Now that's nice. We got plenty to get to today. Other side of the break, we'll talk a little bit about the soon-to-be big game. Maybe we do have our quarterback. I don't know. It's still a little early. We'll explore that topic and many others, including Quinn, the mighty Quinn Hughes. We'll talk about him and other topics as well here on the Common Man program on the Fan. I'm Common. No Tenebee today. He will be back tomorrow, we believe. We start at 1 o'clock tomorrow. Sam Boyd is in for Tenebee. It's time now for Peek at the Purple, brought to you by our friends at Affordable Electric. If you're remodeling this winter, before that drywall goes up, make sure all the electrical is done right. Affordable Electric adds circuits, installs lighting, upgrades wiring, and solves what might be described as hidden issues to your so your project is safe and future ready. Start to remodel the smart way. Book online today, affordable-electric.com, affordable-electric.com. And remember, Affordable Electric is shockingly affordable. I'm sort of getting used to it now. It's almost like, what do they call that when you grow an immunity to it, where it doesn't faze me quite as much as it once did, that electrical shock. It's the Vikings win. They defeat Dallas, I think 8 points, the final score, something like that. A game in which it was entertaining. It wasn't the sharpest played game in the world by either side, more offense than defense, but that's okay too. I think we went into the game. I think everybody went into the game knowing that the Vikings weren't going to qualify for the playoffs this year, trying to see if 9, the alter ego to J.J. McCarthy, could return to that 9. Because sometimes he plays like J.J. McCarthy, which is not good. We've seen that. The J.J. McCarthy is not 9 is good. And we saw more 9 yesterday than we did J.J. McCarthy. The first offensive play of the game was an interception. Then the Cowboys fake a field goal. One of the coolest looking plays I've ever seen on the fake field goal, where the holder just flipped it blindly over his shoulder. Place kicker got it, ran for the first down. I think his name is Aubrey. And then they went and scored a tutty. And we're thinking maybe this could be a long day for the purple, but they got the ship righted, and they went on to win. And McCarthy, 9 played pretty well yesterday. I must admit, I would call it being pleasantly surprised. I think I brought this up last week. I've had this gut feeling all along that while he might not be Ponder-like, I didn't think he was going to get to be Peyton Manning-like. And he's probably not going to be either one. But that was pretty good yesterday. That wasn't bad. Now you have to take into consideration the opponent, Dallas. If Tenneby would have been here today, I would have apologized to him. He stated that Dallas's defense was awful. And I said, no, wait a minute. I said, let's call a timeout here. Previous to the Kitties game, which was last week, where I think the Lions, they put up even more points than the Vikings did, but it was a bundle. I think they hung 44 on Dallas last week. But the previous 2 games, the Dallas defense had shown some major improvement. They had taken some strides, so I thought, well, maybe that can carry on with the Vikings. It did not, as the Vikings pretty much could do whatever they wanted on the ground and in the air. While you do have to take, in my opinion, the level of the competition, Dallas just isn't very good defensively. Last weekend before, Washington had lost 8 games in a row. Their defense isn't very good either. But as you've heard me say 6-7 times at least, the Vikings don't put the roster together for the other team. They don't put the schedule together. They don't do the pregame pump-up stuff for the other team. So they're not to be blamed for playing 2 teams that just aren't very good defensively. And the Vikings did so with a beat-up offensive line. Again, Darisaw didn't play. O'Neal was out with an injury. So they didn't even have their full 5 lineup, the 5 that they wanted to start the season with. As a matter of fact, I think last week was the first and only time the team has had all 5 of the starters they envisioned when the season began to play on the offensive line, from center to the 2 guards to the 2 tackles. And this week it went back to O'Neal had a foot problem. Darisaw didn't even play. I mean, he as far as I know, I don't think he even suited up. So it's nice. It's encouraging, because after those handful of games where he looked just god awful, he looked like we might want to fish and cut bait now, but you do have to stay patient, and we all agreed to that. And now we'll see what happens. They have another game now. They're playing a terrible Giants team. This one's on the road. I'm not sure exactly how that will go, but the Giants aren't very good either. And then with Detroit, they're one of my regular listeners, an emailer, sent an email to me last night and said, looks like Goff was off because Detroit lost. It had nothing to do with Goff. Goff played really well again yesterday. He completed more than 60% of his passes. He threw for 3 touchdowns, 300-plus yards. It was the Lions' defense again that had no answer for the loss. Here's what I'm beginning to think. The Lions, if you're looking for the Lions or on your front porch, what I think the other teams are doing now is they're just ransacking the house and going out the back door, because the Lions defensively for the second week in a row came out of halftime and had no answer for they were outplayed and outcoached, and they got crushed. And so having Detroit, so you got the Giants on the road, then you have Detroit at home, which should not be. Now Detroit could still be there. They're hanging by a thread to a possible playoff spot. They need to run the table. They'll need to beat Pittsburgh this week at the Litter Box, which I would say that's a pick'em game. Pittsburgh's playing pretty well. They're in a playoff position right now in the AFC. But my guess is the Lions won't put up much resistance defensively, which leads the Vikings to the last game of the season, which is at home against Green Bay. Green Bay more than likely will have playoff positioning to be playing for. They'll be looking for either a number 1 seed that doesn't look likely now after yesterday's loss to Denver, but it's still in the cards, and certainly a number 2 seed, 3 seed. You want to get a home game if you can. So they might, but now let's say Green Bay, by the time we get to the final week of the season, if winning or losing doesn't change their seeding at all, I don't think we're going to see a lot of Jay Love or any of their other starting players. So this could be a real nice situation for the Vikings offensively to give McCarthy some more time. Though you could make the argument you'd rather him play against teams that have something to play for, so that he's playing in a game in which the opposition is giving it everything they have. So
like Dallas last night for sure.
Yeah, well, but Dallas defensively is terrible, so it doesn't matter. If you're terrible, it doesn't matter how desperate you are. I don't believe in the desperation level anyways. People will go with the desperation level all the time. They'll say, well, when they're handicapping games, they'll go, well, this team's desperate, so that's why we're going to get a better effort out of them. There's a reason that team was desperate, because they're not very good. If you're desperate, it means that you've done a number of things wrong throughout the season to lose games you probably shouldn't have lost. So, Dallas's defense, there's nothing there. They're one of the worst defenses in the league. Statistically, they're ranked 30th and 31st and 32nd in every meaningful defensive category. But again, that's not the Vikings' fault or Nine's fault. So that worked well, and so it was a nice game. Let's take a break. Play music. Put me out. We are. Pick at the Purple was brought to you by our friends at Affordable Electric, affordable-electric.com for all of your electrical needs. More controversial Vikings news. We'll talk a little while. Other side of the break, Common Man program on the Fan.
The Common Man.
Who cares about Common? Common is boring. It's Common.
Weekdays at noon on the Fan.
Couple 13-14 past Common Man program. I'm Common. He is Sam in for 10 to be today. Major blockbuster trade for the Minnesota Wild over the weekend. They trade for Quinn Hughes, who I'll be honest with you, and I know this won't come as a surprise to anybody. I'd never hoided the guy before until this weekend, and now I feel like he's my best friend. I know everything about him, where he's been, where he's going, where he's at. He was in Vancouver. He was a 2017 draft pick, I believe, made his debut in 2019, or maybe he was a 2019 draft pick and made his debut in 2021. Won the Norris Trophy for best defenseman in hockey yesterday. He's due a really big contract in about a year and a half. We have him through 27. We traded the equivalent of 4 number 1 picks, an unprotected 2026 first round pick, and then Boyum, I had all the names down. Ogren and Rossi, all traded for. And, all of those players, from what people tell me, again, I'm not paying as close attention to the National Hockey League or the Minnesota Wild as I once did, but I'm told all of those players were quality players. It wasn't like, well, this guy was a real disappointment. He was highly regarded. He didn't live up to expectations, so it's like a win-win for us. We're getting one of the best defensive players in hockey, and we need help on the blue line, and then we're also getting rid of some dead weight, because they certainly weren't dead weight. What I find interesting is, and this benefits the Wild. It did benefit the Wild, and you wonder if it is, because what I read in the Fish Wrap Factory West Side, or maybe this was an athletic piece, but it said, Canucks president of hockey operations Jimmy Rutherford already had a feeling Hughes wouldn't resign once he reached free agency in 2027. Vancouver's a terrible team in a terrible city with terrible fans and a terrible stadium. They're in dead last place. And although Vancouver didn't have to, he wanted to send Hughes to a team that would work for him, which I think you see that more often now in sports. It's your whole life, just sports, where there will be general managers who will try to placate the player they are trading instead of just saying, I can't worry about where you've been, where you are, where you want to go. I have to do what's best for the team. But Hughes was quoted as saying, it was a tough situation, but I felt it was time, meaning they had discussions with the front office and saying, look, this just isn't working out for us anymore. He says, they were kind of talking a lot about places I might feel comfortable. And Jim was amazing with that. He cared about the person. He wanted me to go where he thought I'd be happy, and they thought one of those places was Minnesota. Guerin got the call. The story talks about, I think he was making Mostaccioli, or maybe he was making what's a Mexican fajitas. I think he was making fajitas or something like that when he got the phone call to say that Vancouver was ready to cut the deal. Guerin, and here's where you do have to, if you believe this had anything to do with it, and there are those that believe he did, including Hughes. He says Hughes was also appreciated. It says Guerin interacted with Hughes earlier this year when Hughes had to drop out of the United States team in the Four Nations face-off due to injury. And Hughes said it gave him, quote, a glimpse of what a good person Bill Guerin is. He was also appreciative of Guerin pulling off the blockbuster trade for Rossi, Boyum, Ogren, and a first-round draft pick. Hughes says he wants to prove he was right in doing so, because that's one of those. The only comparison I can draw, it's Herschel Walker-like, though I don't think it's going to work out to be Herschel Walker-like. In other words, I don't think the Wild is going to be the equivalent of the Vikings in trading all sorts of draft picks and players. And really, let's face it, Walker never lived up to the expectations and didn't do for the Vikings what they expected him to do. Back in '89 when they cut that deal, I was all for it. I was a Rube. I thought the Vikings, I thought they were a running back away, as Mike Lynn and the Vikings did. They thought they were running a quality running back away from being a Super Bowl contender, and it didn't work out that way. But it's still it's a big trade when it's a 4-for-1 is what it amounts to. Though the one is accomplished more than the other 4, so that's obviously the trade-off. Hugh said there are other teams that probably could have thrown in certain packages like that too, but at the end of the day, they didn't want to do that, or they didn't want to trade 2 or 3 assets from their team. Billy did, so I'll remember that, and that means a lot to me that Billy did that. Which then takes us to the next logical step. Will those good feelings between the two, the goodwill, continue when we get to free agency period for Hughes in 2027? We've got him all of this year and all of next year. Now, he's got 2 brothers, is what I'm told, that are both really good players. And I think they both play for New Jersey. So there has been speculation, and I don't think anybody in that family, the trio of brothers, has thrown any cold water on this. The 3 of them would like to play together someday. So does that mean he ends up going to New Jersey, or do we have to make another deal and get his 2 brothers to come here? I don't know what the point is. I don't know how important that is to him. And then apparently his home, I think he's from Michigan. Did I read that right? That Detroit is his like his hometown team. So there's the speculation that he might want to play in Michigan. But Hughes went on to say, and he also said the fans' reaction to him was big because they gave him a rousing applause. So with the way it started, with a win, he scored in his first game at the Wild. I think his goal was the 4th one of the game. You can't, look, I'm taking the word of the people that I trust when it comes to hockey. That would be the people that write hockey in this town, the Tenebys, the Russos, the Sarah McClellan, and all the others that write hockey and follow the league. They tell me that this immediately makes the Wild. They were already off to a nice start. The season started out poorly. Then they went on that nice November run. Their record in November was spectacular. I think they only had 1 or 2 losses, regulation losses in the entire month of November, and that put them firmly in the chase for a playoff spot. And now adding him, you've got one of the best forwards in the business. There are those that might suggest Kaprizov is the best forward in the league. I think most people would say, well, let's not get carried away, but he's certainly a top 5 player in this league. You mix that with maybe the best defenseman in all of hockey, and certainly what I've been able to gather is he's for sure top 3, maybe top 2 or maybe the best one. Then you add him with Faber, who is already, and there were quotes from Faber who said, this is good for him. This is good for the team. The two of them can work well off each other. He figures it'll take 5-6 games, and they're already showing some of it yesterday. I think Faber had 2 assists yesterday. So, we talked last week. Teneby brought it up again. We have this discussion every so often on the Grum where we say, okay, which of the major men's 4 has the best chance to bring a championship to the Twin Cities? So, the lead the last couple of years has been Minnesota Timberwolves. They got to the Western Conference Finals the last 2 years in a row. Now, they got blown out in the Western Conference Finals both years. Got killed by Dallas, killed by OKC, 4-1. So, even though they're in the finals, you could make the argument they're not as close to getting to the finals as we think. It's not like they took Dallas or OKC to the limit, pushed it to 6 or 7 games. It was basically they were completely outplayed and overmatched in those 2 matchups. But again, bringing back pretty much the same host. We lost Na, right? Was it Na we lost? We lost 1 player on the club. But other than that, we were bringing everybody back. So, okay, all is right with the world. The Wild, going into this season after the Parisi Suter contract, after that money was no longer hanging over the Wild's heads, we had all sorts of money to spend in free agency. The only issue was the best free agents re-signed with their team, so they stayed the course, didn't spend any money. Now they make the blockbuster trade. We know the Twins, they'll never contend, probably ever, right? I think that's probably a given that if you're a baseball fan and you were around in 87, 91, by God, enjoy it and remember it because we ain't ever going to get there again. And then there were those, including myself, that thought, well, maybe it's the Vikings, who might give the state the best chance to win a major championship, win the big game in the men's major 4, because they're now, again, we know it ended badly last year with the 2 losses at the end. They got crushed by Detroit. They got beat by the Rams. They decided to go in a different direction and started with a young quarterback. That decision to go with a young quarterback and overload him with a full system and not quite ready to play his mechanics. Even last night, if you're watching the game last night, they showed several highlights of Sam throwing the football. Or not Sam, you're Sam. Of JJ throwing the football. And there was the one play where apparently his mechanics were perfect. Feet firmly planted, eyes matched up with his feet, threw a nice pass. Then there was those fastballs he throws where he does look like a pitcher. He's making the big windup, and when he throws, he's got that right leg swinging over the top, but it worked. But I think the Vikings, and I've talked about this really for the past few weeks, it appears as though maybe the coaching staff and the front office maybe overestimated how far along McCarthy was, because I don't think it's any secret the team was planning to contend this year by spending the money they did on the interior of both the offensive and defensive lines. Those players have been okay. A couple have played okay. The others certainly haven't probably lived up to the amount their contracts you would think they would. And then the quarterback has struggled mightily until the past couple of weeks. He's looked a lot better. So it's right now the Wild. It seems like it's the Wild or bust. When it comes to somebody making a world championship, this one says, I don't know if anyone outside of Minnesota has Kaprizov as a top 5 player. Hey, maybe they don't. I've been led to believe that he's the highest paid player. Now, highest paid player doesn't necessarily translate into the very best player, but
he's pretty good. He's the best player on the team. He's one of the best in the NHL for sure.
Is he top 5 though? That was the debate. 5. But you're not a hockey guy.
Yeah, I'll put out the text to Brett and see what he thinks.
So here's best 5 players NHL. They don't have nobody has them in the current top 5 according to what I'm seeing. McDavid number 1, Nathan McKinnon number 2, Austin Matthews number 3, Draisaitl number 4, Cale Makar and Quinn Hughes, our guy, ranked as number 5. So yeah, nobody has. I stand corrected. This ranking from NHL.com is Quinn Hughes as number 10 player in the National Hockey League.
Sure. Wonder if that's bulletin board material for those guys. If they have
no, I don't think anybody cares about that. I don't think that bothers any of those guys. But nonetheless, so yeah, I mean, it's hard not to be encouraged. Now here's one here. Minnesota fan or not, if you don't think Kirill is top 5, you're on crack cocaine. Well, see, but then here's what I don't know. See, now maybe I've been buying into this top 5 because maybe it is the Minnesota bias, right?
Sure.
Top 5 forwards in the NHL. He's not on the list. This can't be right, though, then. They've got an aging Matt Duchene at 34 years. There's no way he can be considered better. Sidney Crosby's, isn't he done? I don't even think he's the best. Not only is he not one of the best top 10 forwards in the National Hockey League, I don't even think he's the best forward on his team right now, but there you go. That's the numbers you have. So it says Timberwolves will win their championship next. Boy, I'm not ready to.
I'd love to hear how that's going to happen.
Well, no, they're good. I mean, I don't think they've got a lot of talent. I don't think anybody would disagree with that. It's just so far this year, they've been able to beat the lesser teams. The teams that have winning records, they've struggled with for the most part. So they won again yesterday. They didn't have Edwards. They played fairly well yesterday, from what I understand, but. The difference with the guy here's what I'll give you right here. Here's what DiVincenzo said after the game. This is a quote from the Fish Wrap. It says, "When we play defense, when we lock in, we get stops and we're out and running. That's what kind of changed in the game. Once we got to pushing the ball, we settled down and handled things. In other words, playing defense, moving the ball, playing with playing with a real purpose. And so far, this team doesn't seem to. Well, we've talked about the quotes ad nauseum. Here's one that says, the Timberwolves have been the closest to winning a championship since the 2017 Vikings, who got blown out in the NFC Championship game. They weren't that far out of that NFC Championship game. I mean, if you look back at that, all they really needed was a touchdown 2-point conversion and an onside kick. Touchdown 2-point conversion and an onside kick. A touchdown, a 2-point conversion and an onside kick. But I know the Timberwolves have been the closest. I'm saying right now, we're talking about as we speak, which team do you believe as? Obviously, it's not. It could still be the Vikings. If you believe that the Wild, that this might improve the team, but they're not a real threat to win a championship, and if you don't think the Timberwolves are going to get back not only to the Western Conference Finals, but advance to the finals, then you could make that argument. But right now, I wouldn't put the Timberwolves. I'd have to put the Wild squarely in that spot right now, is what I would do. So let's do this. Let's take a break. Did you put together a 5-3-4?
I did.
You got a 5-3-4, so we'll do that on the other side of the break. Sam will grill me on several questions. We'll do that. Other side, can you play some music?
Yeah, I'm getting it pulled up right here. Here we go.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's got a nice little beat to it.
Yeah, I like that.
We'll take a break. 5-3-4 coming out your way on the other side of the break on the Common Man program on the Fan.
The Common Man.
Late at night when I'm driving home, I listen to Denver station, Chicago station. You're the only guy in the world that I would actually pay money to listen to on the radio.
Weekdays at noon on The Fan.